types of audit is where we are taking it off. Examples of audits, that is what we are looking at. And then we have it that we have examples of audit, we have assessment, and we have review. So which one is review, which one is assessment, and then which one is what? Now, there are types of audit, like I mentioned. For example, information systems audit, compliance audit, financial audit. What are these? That's what we want to get introduced to. And since we are all professionals, we know that financial audit assesses the correctness of an organization's financial statement. That's what financial audit does. Again, I said it assesses the correctness of an organization's financial statement. So in no particular order, I'm going to look at them, but eventually we will look at them. Now, we also have operational audit. Ordinary operational audit will assess the structure and strength of internal controls. It will assess the structure and strength of internal controls. For example, the IS audits of application controls, the IS audits, the operational audits of logical security systems and all this stuff, right? HR audits, all these fall under operational audits. Now, you also might have a situation whereby an organization says they prefer integrated audits. Now, what that means is that they want to combine 2 or 3 of particular types of audits and then have them executed under one house, under one umbrella. For example, an organization might say we want to combine operational audits and financial audits, and then they will call it integrated audits. So what matters is that at the end of the day, they are going to issue a joint report and not separate reports, right? They might also decide to include IS audits. So they might say, okay, we're going to combine financial audit, operational audit under one umbrella, and they call it integrated audit. Now, there is also administrative audits, which assesses issues that relate to the efficiency of operational productivity within an organization. That is what an administrative audit will look at. It will naturally assess, the efficiency of operational productivity within a particular organization. Now, for the sake of some of you that were not here when we looked at the definition of IS auditing, we said, if you guys will recall, we said that IS auditing is a process of collecting and evaluating audit evidence to determine whether a computer system and related resources are adequately safeguarded, protected, assets are protected, data integrity is maintained, and availability of these assets and technology are achieved, right? So we're saying that IS audit is that process that involves the collection of audit evidence so as to be able to ascertain whether the entire computing infrastructure of your organization is able to protect your data and information, is able to safeguard and protect these assets, is able to guarantee the efficient use of resources without wastages, and is able to lead to the achievement of objectives, right? That is what IS audits will look at. And in the bid to ensure that these are done, it will involve the audit of your servers, your firewalls, all your technologies, all your IT environments, your LAN, your WAN, your wireless environments. It will also involve the audit of your people, your IT specialists, right? It will also involve departmental audits and even the audit of the entire organization to ensure that the technology used or deployed by management in that organization, in those departments, eventually will lead them to where they want to get to. Now, there is also room for compliance audit. Now, compliance audit, as the name suggests, is a specific test of controls to determine adherence to specific regulatory or industry standards or even internal policies. Now, example of compliance audits will include PCI and DSS. PCI, we have PCI and DSS, especially in a pay card industry. PCI definitely stands for pay card industry, and then DSS stands for digital security standards, right? So if you guys work in the pay card industry in the bank, then you might be required to carry out a PCI and DSS audit, right? And when you do that, that falls under the ambit or under the umbrella of compliance audit. Then you might also have specialized audits, right? Specialized audits, there are actually many or different types of specialized audits that may be conducted. Now, within the category of IS audits, specialized audit reviews may examine areas such as fraud or services performed by third parties. I repeat, specialized audits involve different types of audits. But then within the ambit of IS audits, specialized reviews are conducted to examine certain areas such as fraud or services provided for your organization by third parties. There is no shame if you cannot have it all done by your organization. There's no shame going to Control Ideas Consulting, going to 3V, come and help us do this thing. And then when they come to help you render one function or the other, or you have outsourced a particular information system function to a vendor, then you also need to review or put your eyes on what they are doing for you. I have always stressed it in this class that when you outsource, what you have outsourced is what? The function and not the liability. So specialized audit is what will enable an auditor, either your internal auditor or an auditor mutually agreed upon between you and that vendor, to go and audit them and report back to you. That is a specialized audit. Now, you also have third-party service audits, right? Third-party service audit, just like what I just said, addresses our source financial and business processes to third parties. Like that's what I was just trying to explain. So when you have a source, you need to appoint an auditor to go and audit, right? And what usually happens is that the assessor, that organization that you have outsourced to, normally would not allow you to send your own internal auditor, IS auditor, to come and audit them, right? For reasons best known to them. So they will prefer the appointment of an independent third-party auditor, mutually agreed upon between you and them. So that third-party auditor will naturally go audit the vendor and report back to the organization. That's where third-party come in, right? And the standard that currently regulates the activities of third-party auditors is SSAE 18. I repeat, the standard that currently regulates the activities of third parties is what? SSAE 18. Before now, it was SAS 70, but now it's SSAE 18. Now, there might be need to carry out independent fraud audits. Fraud audit, for example, fraud has occurred, there is need for investigation. So you might need to bring in a fraud expert or a fraud examiner to come and audit or to come and carry out a review or an examination. Now, fraud audit, therefore, is a specialized audit designed to discover fraudulent activities within an organization, right? Now, auditors often can use specific tools and data analytic techniques to discover fraudulent schemes and then business irregularities. If anybody here has ever used a data analytic tool like an ACL, you should appreciate what I'm talking about, right? ACL does 100% analysis. With it, you are able to detect fraud, right? If, for example, a government wants to know the number of ghost workers in their environment, ACL will do that job for them in 5 minutes. But then you see your government, when they want to do that, they will make a show of it. They will constitute a committee. They will allot money to the committee. They will now give the committee another 3 to 6 months to determine whether there are ghost workers in the environment. But with a data analytic tool like ACL, all I will require from them is 2 files. I'll just require 2 files from them, and the files are just employee master file and their payroll. By the time I now impute the employee master file and their payroll in my system, I'll just run 1 or 2 commands. You understand? And then the results will be the list of their ghost workers. Ordinarily, who is a ghost worker? A ghost worker is a person, right, who is on the payroll, but his name and details is not on the employee master file. That is a ghost worker. But we make a show of it here, right? So that is one of the things that a fraud examiner will discover using the right tools. Then you might also have a forensic audit conducted by forensic auditors. Now, traditionally, forensic auditing has been defined as an audit specialized in discovering and disclosing and following up on frauds and crime. Primarily, the purpose of such a forensic audit is what? The development of evidence for review by law enforcement and judiciary authorities. So those forensic auditors are the people that will be called to give evidence in the law courts and all this stuff. So these are categories of audits and assessments and reviews. You might also come across computer forensic audits, which is a little bit different from ordinary forensic audit, because even under forensic audit, you even have pathological forensic auditors that examine cadavers, that is corpses, you understand, to actually, find out what led to their death. That is even forensic audit, you understand. So they also stand before a judge and give evidence of what led to the death of that person. Then computerized audit, on the other hand, is an investigation that includes analysis of electronic devices such as computers, smartphones, disks, switches, and routers. So one day you become certified information system auditors, guys, right? And then you have the right tool and the right skill. You can even double as a computer forensic audit, because the bulk of what we do as IS auditors is that we also examine these electronic devices like computers, smartphones, disk, switches, routers, hubs, firewalls, etc. So you, as an IS auditor, possessing the necessary skills, can assist an information security manager or a forensic expert in performing forensic investigation, and then conduct an audit of the system to ensure that they are in compliance, with evidence collected. So that is just the process of forensic auditing. Then you have functional auditing. Functional audit. Functional audits provides independent evaluation of software products. For example, this is where you are trying to have a software developed, right? In your module 3, you are going to have fun with Nonso. He's going to expose you to all that has to do with whether you want to develop an application or you want to have it, purchased off the shelf. So that is acquired off the shelf, right? So if you want to have a software developed off the shelf, then that is where functional audit come in, because functional audit will therefore provide an independent evaluation of software products, right? Verifying that software product has its configuration items intact, right? Verifying the actual functionality and performance of the software, that they are consistent with the requirements specifications. Because when you want to buy a software and application off the shelf, or you want to have it developed, just as you're going to see later, there's what we call user requirements or user specification. That means the would-be users of that application will specify what they want that application or that software to do for them. So eventually, when that software is acquired, that is bought off the shelf or developed, then functional audit will enable us to eventually to know whether the user requirements as specified by the various departments that will use that application or software, whether the used requirements have been incorporated into the functionality of that software. That is what it will do for you. All right. So these are categories of audits. I have even given you more than you have